Welcome, Atlanta United family, to another episode of Resurge The Spike ATL. Here with one of our hosts, James, as usual. Tommy is missing today, but we have a guest with us today from Mouths of the South podcast, local podcast from Atlanta, based with your Atlanta United contact, Eric Quintana. Welcome, man. We're glad to have you here. I mean, honestly, the reason why I even got in contact with you was basically because of Dirty Soccer South Twitter Spaces. We were always on there commenting, and you have some good takeaways from the games and everything. So we're just glad to have your opinion here and what you can bring to the show today, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. The Twitter Spaces have been kind of like it's been a cool thing to kind of see. I don't know how long we've been doing it because I typically will tune out as soon as the game ends, but it's been fun to kind of see how many people show up, how many people interact. You don't have to be a special type of fan or anything like that to get involved. You just kind of show up, and if you want to say something, and it's pretty cool like that. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. So, before we get to anything, guys, the usual subscribe to Fila Sports Podcast. You can find Eric on Twitter at Eric G Quintana. Give him a follow. Or any other social media accounts, if you want to give them out, that people can subscribe to, or, share your content out as well if you want to give them out, man.
Just MOTS podcast. That's the podcast. I think that's it though. I think that that's all my stuff. I have Instagram, but I don't really do soccer stuff for that.
Cool.
Just Eric G Quintana on Twitter, and then MOTS podcast for the podcast, and always follow Dirty South Soccer for all the latest news and notes when it comes to Atlanta United.
Yeah, and also give our boy James Kyle Miss 26. Give us a follow, Resurge Spike ATL. Big Kyle Corver fan.
Yeah, man.
Diehard Kyle Corver fan.
Greatest shooter of all time, man.
Guys, so we have a stretch of like two, basically a home game and a away game that it was a must win for Atlanta United. You go away from home in Cincinnati, you go down a goal as usual. Or hold up, did we score first, or
we scored first?
Yeah, sorry, dude. So I'm thinking about last night, trying to totally ahead of myself, but as usual, Atlanta United, catching up to, or trying to catch up to the score. Basically, you're playing. I don't know. It seems there's no team. There's no 100% effort at times. No movement. I mean, there's a lot of things that literally we could go here for a long time and complain about whatever we're doing wrong on the field, but. Eric, what does it all come down to? You think it's coaching? You think it's the players? You think it's the front office not handling the transfers correctly and not having a team that has some cohesion? Where do we narrow this down to?
I'm gonna have a bit of a shitty answer. Can I cuss on here? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Hey, you good, man? You trust me. We rip them out sometimes on here.
It's gonna be a bit of a shitty answer because I don't know if there's like a real fix for this, at least in the near future. I think that because I think everyone can agree that the players are all individually really talented, even the ones that we didn't expect to like kind of come up. So Wiley, we didn't really think was going to be. I mean, I don't know what we thought about him, but we thought he was going to be fine. But to have the impact that he's had, you look at Gutman, who's been fantastic. All across the board, it seems as though the pieces that have been brought in to kind of be the highlight of the team, they don't seem to be playing with this sense of togetherness, if you will, because again we can agree individually all of them have great talent. They're all obviously talented. They all were getting looked at by teams in Europe. That's fine, but man, they're not doing themselves many favors when it comes to trying to get themselves to the next level, because they cannot do it with, or it doesn't seem like they're playing as a team as currently constructed. Now, I don't really know who to put that on, because we can all point at Bocanegra and be like, and believe me, I don't like Bocanegra either, but we can all point at Bocanegra and be like, look, it's your job to assemble this team, to give the coaches what he needs to build the team that ends up winning championships. And you can arguably say that, okay, the chemistry might not be right, but the players individually are fantastic. We can all agree Araujo is great. You can question his decision making sometimes, but we can all agree that he's a great player. Same with Almada, same with Moreno, same with same with Cisneros, same with you name it. They're all the players are fine. There aren't any players that are themselves detrimental to this team. I think that individually, though, they don't want to, or at least I hate to pick on the South American players, but it seems to be them. The South American players don't seem to want to play for the city of Atlanta. That's kind of what I'm hanging my hat on, because there's the only other thing that I can think of that is just not going well for Atlanta United. Obviously, they can get to the final third. It's in the final third that things are going wrong. And I think kind of, and I don't know that it's force is the right word, but kind of putting Joseph Martinez into the position where he's kind of having to do it all himself up top is not going to be very, very conducive to Atlanta United winning pretty much at all for the rest of the season. I know we saw him score at the very end of the game last game, but I mean, that's I'm not going to call it a fluke, but where was that the whole game? That's exactly what you want to see out of Joseph. Where's that the whole game? Where's that kind of mentality in the buildup? And this is a team that's tired. This is a team that's, okay, we're up 2-0. We can sit back. It's the 95th minute or whatever time that goal scored. It's not that big of a deal that they gave up that goal. I'm sure they didn't want to give it up, but it's, ultimately like, it's not that big of a deal. So that moves over to like the question, okay, well, if we have the team if we have the best players available, if Bocanegra has brought us the best players available, and I'm not saying that he absolutely has, but I'm saying the players he has brought us aren't bad. The chemistry then falls on Pineda. But see, that's the thing. I don't even know if it falls on Pineda. I think it's his job to help kind of build that chemistry between the players. But I'm also not sure if, what you can do for players that didn't want to be here to begin with and now are here and they're not playing well. So I don't know.
Tommy,
it's a fair answer. Now, James, yeah.
Get Tommy in the chat. All right, I'll respond to this. I mean, basically, yeah, I agree a little bit. I mean, it feels like the last two games, like the first 5 minutes last night, we played really well in the build-up. The first, 15, 20 minutes in Cincinnati, we did the same thing. It's just, I feel like a lot of the second half of Cincinnati, which was kind of a game, second half yesterday was just nothing, where you got the ball to Wiley. Wiley played it out to Almada to Sosa, back to Almada, just pinging it around, and there's just no options there. It's frustrating, especially when every time I feel like Joseph gets the ball, he's in a position where he's just clumped and he has to play his back to the goal and he has to freaking pass it back because there's just nothing there. It's interesting, but I mean, the Cincinnati game, I was pretty happy with how we played. We had like 20 shots, and obviously all of them weren't great. The second half wasn't great, but the first half really displayed that was good stuff. Pineda was ballsy putting Andrew Gutman at center back. That freaking worked out 10 times over. And I mean, it's just disappointing that we didn't go with consistency in the second game. And yeah.
Well, hold on. Seattle and Cincinnati both, I thought, I've mentioned this, I think, at least once on the spaces, but they're two games where it looked like, okay, these are two games where it looks like Pineda might be close to figuring it out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Where the players might be close to figuring it out. And I remember saying last night that one of the things that we have to consider is that maybe this at least when it comes to looking at this team from Seattle moving forward, don't think about anything else other than Seattle moving forward. Maybe the Red Bulls game is a bit of an outlier when it comes to the rest of the season because Atlanta United has never beaten the Red Bulls. That their style of play is not conducive to anything Atlanta United ever does because all of a sudden you have to be perfect, whereas Red Bulls don't have to be perfect, and they're not perfect. So maybe I'm saying, especially when it comes to Pineda, wait until this next game, and to see exactly how, kind of to see if the consistency from Seattle and Cincinnati kind of move into, kind of roll over to the Columbus match.
Yeah.
It's still a massive blow to the ego, but I mean, it's not as. I still have a feeling this might be an out. That's the hope I'm giving myself, at least. That this is an outlier, that we don't have to. It's not a. The season's not over just because we lost last night, even though it felt like a must win, as much as a must win can feel like with 9 games left, I think.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just disappointing that Pineda goes ahead and puts out like his 5-man attackers in the same lineup with no midfield and barely any defense. That's the one thing that was alarming me. Like when it came out, I'm like, I don't really know. And the Rossetto injury is part in that, and Andrew Gutman not training on either Monday or Tuesday maybe has to do with that, but he threw him in the game anyway pretty early. But that was the one thing that disappointed me, especially when we go back to when we were in New Jersey. We played with that 5-back. We played with those midfielders, and it seemed to work really well. And then you just go with a whole different shape in that one, which was quite confusing, even after it worked for you in Cincinnati. That's the alarming thing to me. And also another comment on that. Actually, I'll get to that later. But that's the one thing that got me. It was that 11 and how you put Cisneros, you put in all your DPs, Moreno, Cisneros in the same lineup. It's just, especially when they haven't linked well all season, it just didn't work for me.
Did you hear about the reason he didn't put Gutman in to start?
Oh, he said that?
So he talked about how the FC Cincinnati game, they didn't expect him to play 90 minutes. Okay. They expected him about 70 minutes. And so
he ran his ass off.
Yeah, so when he went the whole game, they were like, okay, well, because then at the end of the game, remember when he scored that goal, he kind of was like limping a little bit or hurt or whatever.
Yeah.
So they didn't practice him, and then they didn't want to. I don't know if they didn't practice him. What was that game? Was that game Saturday?
Yes,
it had to have been Saturday. Yeah. So I don't think they practiced him I don't know if they didn't practice him Monday, but they didn't practice him Tuesday, I think. Yeah. And then they said, we don't, with the not having practice the day before, I don't like putting guys in. Plus, you had to worry about the injury situation. So that's why he waited to the second half. It was kind of out of necessity that and plus you have a game this weekend. I get the frustration. I'm not as worried about the lineup because it's not like these guys don't have it in them to. I know Gutman is probably the better option, but I don't think that it's such a drop off to where you should be, where it's. I'll put it this way. Gutman is not going to, as good of a player as he is, I don't think Gutman or any real lineup changes. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to see if I can think of specifics. I don't think anything is going to change the overall dynamic of the team in such a way where all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, now we're playing with a Ferrari.
Sure. Well, I mean, just going one last rebuttal. Okay. I was thinking like, Moreno obviously proved he's not that box-to-box guy. There's so many holes on defense. And I was thinking, like, why not start Omar Sage in that game, especially when you're playing with a weaker defense than what you have the whole time. That's it. That's all I have on the lineup. But
So we have Tommy here. He was able to join us finally. What's up, Tommy?
I was fighting the mall with school supplies. This is what adults do, I guess. I was fighting someone for a pack of pencils. So it's been fun. How's it going?
Down in Ohio.
Yeah. Man. We're literally just kind of talking about the Cincinnati game and just I guess, where you could kind of narrow down, whether it's Pineda's tactics, how the team was put together or the players. I mean, your thoughts on that?
I mean, just in general, it just seems like a lot of players are off. They're not on the same page. Passes seem off. There's moments where everything seems like it's clicking, and there's other moments where it looks like they've never played on the field together at all, and it gets frustrating. I watched part of the highlights of the Cincinnati game since I was at Avril Lavigne, but it was something. I mean, early on they looked fantastic. I mean, they probably should have been up 3-1. At the end of that first half, and Barr and a couple of handballs that shockingly didn't go our way. It was beyond frustrating on there. But I mean, that's really this season, right? Just be frustration across the board. There's games where, we've talked about this before, where span of 3 games, we're out shooting them, by double, triple shots sometimes, and we don't get 1 goal. That Cincinnati game at the beginning of the season, we dominated them almost the entire game, and it was a 0-0 draw. And that's just where I'm at right now. Is I said this yesterday on Spaces. I feel that this team's broken right now, and maybe an off season is just going to help them get back to normal. I know, Eric, you said that probably not a lot of changes happened over the summer or over the winter.
I hope I'm wrong. I just don't know how many are realistic. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, like realistically, kind of they wouldn't do that, but kind of hoping that they do because it's kind of needed.
Yeah, I can't see how in MLS you can just completely demolish a roster in one winter and get it all back up and running. That's just me.
Toronto did a pretty decent job, making a lot of moves and big moves, right, to bring some guys in, and definitely took some hits on some of them. I still say Joseph is. I don't think Joseph should be with this team next year. I'm just sticking with it.
The only way that doesn't happen is if he retires. I don't know who wants him or who would want him.
That's another thing. Yeah.
I mean, he's going to take a pay cut no matter what. If they move him, he's taking a pay cut. If they don't move him, let me think. How do I phrase this? If they decide to try to move him, Atlanta's going to take. Well, I don't know if Atlanta takes a loss, but he's definitely taking a pay cut. If he stays here, he forces Atlanta United to pay him what they owe him, and if he decides to re-up his contract whenever he wants, then he's absolutely going to have to take a pay cut because he's not. Yeah, he's not the same. I don't think you can ask him to be the same guy. He's had 5 knee surgeries. I hate to say it, but the career for the most part is done. At least as a starting impact, however 35-ish goals a season, whatever that number was. That's not happening again. Not with Joseph. I hate to say it because to think that that's how his career is going to end. It really is going to end with a knee injury. That sucks to say.
And with that, given the fact that he scored his 100th goal, the saddest 100th goal. This is what's crazy. The man has scored 20, or not even 20 goals, 15 goals maybe. But 20 max in the last 3 years, basically. Yet again, he's still the fastest one to score 100 goals. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, he could have done that years ago.
2020 probably, he would have probably hit that target.
Yeah, one night in Nashville. Right?
I mean, you could buy him out. I know that's unlikely, and it's probably the last thing. But a DP spots are what win you championships. And at the end of the year, if you say nobody wants him, at the end of the year, what happens? I mean, you could just not pick up his option. He could just leave for nothing anyways, right?
When does his contract end?
It's the end of next year, but they have an option for the year after.
Okay.
So you could just not pick up the option next year if literally nobody wants him.
Well, look, if it's not done, so if they're going to extend him out, it's probably going to be done at the end of this season. Because you wouldn't wait until next season to then try it. Because, I mean, I guess you could, but you want to get it done before. From the player's perspective, you want to get it done before the season's up. That way, you have longevity with a specific contract or whatever. You're making money past next year in case anything were to happen. I think that's how you should do it. But I wonder if he even wants to. I mentioned last night that I was like, I think he's retiring, dude. He does not seem like I've never seen a more joyless player than not only Joseph, but even the Hispanic players around him. They're all playing they just don't like playing right now. And you add that with the thought that okay, well, he was thinking about retiring before he started playing again. I want to say he's probably financially set for a long time if he plays his cards right. If he was already thinking about it, if he's not enjoying it, if I assume that he's having some kind of knee pain of some kind, He's not as productive. He's not the dominant force that he once was. Maybe with the right team, he can be like a super sub off the bench and then just light it up and work his way back to the dominant guy that he was. But I mean, Araujo is as close to the Almiron thing that you wanted back, I think. And he still can't. He's not even making the run. Here's the other thing. He's not even making the runs that he used to. There was like 2 or 3 occasions last night where I'm like, is he not going to make the run? He's running just with this defender. He's not creating any kind of space. He's not making I'm not gonna say he's the easiest to defend now, but he's not making it very hard for his defenders to defend him because he's not applying any kind of pressure moving forward or it's strange because before, how many times did we see him offside before, this past year? We see him offside all the time. Why? Because he was making all those runs.
Right.
He's not even doing that anymore. You see him dropping back. You see him, he looks like I don't know where I made this analogy, but he looks like a basketball player that is just on the cold streak of his life and is wide open for a 3 and is passing it off to any other player because he's going to miss.
He's Ben Simmons now. Great.
That's what I feel like that's the mentality he's playing with. Now, all that to be said is last night he did score. He did score like a token Joseph Martinez goal. So maybe that ignites something in him, but they still lost. They still didn't play well last night. They still had trouble getting him. I mean, that was the one moment in basically the entire match that they really had to kind of get him involved. I think the other positive is that he did play the entire 90 minutes. That's great. If he starts the next match, that means, okay, the knee must feel pretty good enough, at least, though he can withstand another 45 or 90 or whatever. But if Joseph doesn't get going, then we're done. Like you can hope that Cisneros kind of holds down the fort, but I like Cisneros because of he's making the runs and he's playing with that kind of like that I love Atlanta attitude. But he's not nearly as good of a finisher as Joseph is. So
yeah,
he's a good guy off the bench. I think he's a good guy off the bench. I think that if you move on and you replace Joseph with somebody else, I think you keep Cisneros for depth because I think that's something that we've needed. I know he's not Tito, but he could play those multiple roles, and we've been missing someone like that. I know people were hoping Eric Lopez was going to be that as well, and didn't work out too well for us.
I was going to say, it's funny because I think everyone wants to see Dom Dwyer and Joseph up top to start the game and just see how that goes over the course of 90 minutes. No, you're shaking your head. No, but thank you. I'm thinking of that Seattle. Was it the Seattle game where the chemistry up top was just amazing?
Orlando too. Yeah.
Orlando, was that it?
Yeah.
I think Orlando might be the one I'm thinking of, but we haven't really seen it since. And it was just even though you didn't love the fact that Joseph was kind of releasing the ball, passing it away, and all that stuff, and he wasn't, being the overly aggressive Joseph that I think we all love. What was I going to say? It's a funny dynamic because I think that's probably the better pairing to start the game. But how do you not put your starting goal scorer to start the game? And that's what Cisneros is he's your leading goal scorer on this team right now. So it's a weird. If they can go after one thing in the offseason, it's just an overly confident striker that is just doing well and just needs someone that, like, I would even go after someone that not only has the confidence, but it's like is not being looked at by Europe yet, is looking to make a name for himself, knows that if he gets to Atlanta, it's the same sort of mentality that Cisneros has. He knows that he can make a name for himself here if he plays well, and he's sort of done that. Not to the level that I think he needs to like get to Europe, but he's sort of done enough to like, okay, well, he is now going to be a name across MLS as someone that at the very least can be a competent second striker. If you can get him, someone like that from really anywhere, I don't care where, but someone with that mentality that has that confidence that is, goes into the game knowing I'm going to score no matter how many. Right now it's, are we even going to score? Are we even going to get a good shot in?
Yep.
So something, just throwing that out. You guys are on Twitter Spaces, but I threw this out. Doug Robertson threw out a stat yesterday on Twitter. All-time record whenever Atlanta United concedes a goal first. A total of 68 games. we've won a total of 6. We've tied 46 times, and then we have lost 16. Or no, hold up. Yeah, we've basically lost 16. So this season we've won 0, we've tied 7, and we've won 3. I mean,
when we get scored on first.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we've even won 3.
Yeah.
I mean, even the early teams had trouble with that because you just have so many teams parking the bus, and you very rarely saw it at the bends. But if someone did get up, at the bends, it was just they stopped playing soccer. They just all stayed back, just defended, and that was it. And now you got a team that's in shambles, and they can't come back. And you're asked. Everybody's blaming the offense and saying we should be making the playoffs with this offensive talent. While I don't disagree, you're putting your offensive talent down 1-0 in the first 15, 20 minutes of a game consistently. And that doesn't make it easy for your offense to really get up and going. Your game plan that you had going into that game immediately disappears once you allow that goal. And our game plan is just constantly getting blown up. And maybe it's a lot of times it's just 1-0. But yesterday, it poured very quickly, and you're down 2-0, and at that point, you knew it was over.
Rocco. So let's talk about Rocco. We haven't even talked about the goalkeeping position. You just mentioned that we could have easily been down 3-4, at the half against the Red Bulls yesterday. Just overall, Rocco, I think that he's kind of grown into the team. I personally did not expect him to, start picking up his level as quickly as he did. But whether they keep him or not, or whatever happens with Guzan, I don't know. I think Rocco is one of those guys that he's worth keeping. Just my opinion.
Hold on.
Yeah,
you talked a lot of trash about Rocco.
I sure did. You damn right, I sure did. You damn right, I sure did.
Ariel at it again.
I would still talk a lot of trash about Rocco. I still do talk a lot of trash about Rocco.
Yeah, he's not the best. Literally, there's times where the guy just doesn't give you that confidence. He tries to play out of the back. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes, we end up giving the ball in that dangerous area, and we tend to, just basically kind of struggle with those giveaways and just not being able to get back on the fence quickly enough. But I think with Rocco, I don't know, man. You haven't seen nothing from Godinho. You don't know whether Guzan is even going to be back next year as a starter, right from the bat. Rocco's here on loan. So at this point, what do they go out and try to get another goalie? Personally, like I said, that's the reason why I would keep him. And he's, like I said, improved. So, if he's Bobby Shuttleworth, quality, then yeah, get the guy out of here. But come on, he's done a decent job, but not the best. But hey,
in my opinion, we should pick up Rocco and get ready to start the Justin Garces process. That's just me.
So here's keep in mind that I think Guzan's coming back.
Yeah.
You can start whatever process you want. I think you keep Godinho. I think you let Rocco go. I don't know.
Two of them. Yeah.
I know for a fact that Guzan organized the defense and organized the team back there. I cannot tell you if Rocco's doing the same thing. I have no evidence to suggest that he is. I have no evidence to suggest that he doesn't. But I know that Guzan, there's a different mentality when Guzan's back there across the team, and maybe even with the loss of Miles Robinson, it hurts even more. But I don't know for sure that Rocco is the one that can dominate the organization of that back line of the midfield. What's more likely, that he's organizing, that he's thinking tactically about where different defenders are supposed to be, looking at the different the players that are maybe about to make runs in, or is he looking to position himself so that he can receive the ball and then play it? Which
I
I'm not
mean,
saying.
he can't even look past his defenders. So
I'm
I
not.
don't even know.
I'm
how
not
he's
saying
gonna-
that that's. I'm not saying that's. I'm not saying that's not part of his job. But I would imagine he's looking to receive. He's looking the mentality. There's the mentality of. Remember Michael Vick? It was this run first mentality before
Yep.
passing. If you, I mean, I don't know how old you guys are, but that was the thing with Michael Vick. It was this run first mentality, and then secondary was the pass it. Well, with Rocco, I feel like the more likely scenario in his head is how do I receive the ball given wherever the ball is, rather than organizing the guys on the other side of the field so that so that players don't have an open run straight to me. They don't 1v1 me coming the other way. That's where the experience of a Guzan comes in. He might not be better than Rocco. I'm not saying he is. I think probably they're both honestly probably Rocco's a better shot stopper than Guzan. But you weren't suffering from. It's not like losing Guzan was such a detrimental loss when it comes to shot stopping that it changed the course of the season. I think more so it changed the course of how these defenders defended, how the midfield kind of organized themselves, how he was able to communicate with his players so that they didn't, last night we saw, I forget who it was, but one of the Red Bulls players, it's just a free one-on-one with the goalkeeper that I think he missed. I forget exactly what happened. But that doesn't happen often with Guzan. Not in the position like that where, you've got both center backs, I think, pushed over to one side. I can promise you, as experienced as Guzan is, he's yelling at one of his center backs or whoever's on the right side to kind of pull over so that guy's not running free whenever Red Bulls have the ball. It's moments like that kind of frustrate me with Rocco, because I don't think he has that. I mean, he's 20 years old. I think they say that goalkeepers don't really get fully experienced until they're about 30. So you got 10 years of like full on professional playing before you like can really adapt to those situations. And I think that's where the biggest, it's not so much the shot stopping. It's not so much, his abilities as a goalkeeper, but it's more how you organize your back line. And I think it's safe to say that we look more disorganized now than we did when Guzan was in.
Yeah. Are you talking about that free run where Parada just left his man?
It just left.
I was watching it. I was there, right? And I'm just like, where's he going? Why are you tracking your guy? Like,
I haven't seen the replay, so I don't know exactly.
It was bad. What I remember from last night.
I just remember thinking, my immediate thought was like, when has that ever happened to Guzan, where a player left and he wasn't? I don't know. Or maybe it's just the fact that, I always got annoyed that Guzan would jump up and start yelling at his players and whatnot. But I'm like, man, maybe that's what this team needs.
We need that. Yeah.
Maybe that's what this team needs. And Rocco's not going to give you that. Rocco doesn't have the authority to do that with Atlanta United right now.
And with his last loan, his first time around, the buyout was expensive. I don't remember what it was, but it was pretty crazy on what it was. And everyone's like, they're not gonna pick that option up. And I think they have to renegotiate at this point. I think it was kind of a last minute type thing. They brought him back, so it could be pricey unless his price has gone down dramatically. In the last year.
Well, keep in mind you'll have two goalkeepers coming back from Achilles tears. So Guzan will be one. I forgot the name of the other guy, but he's a young guy.
Dylan. I remember Dylan.
Dylan Castejera.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you got Garces that's coming up. I think goalkeeper's fine as long as Guzan's kind of the leader of the pack there. And
it's going to be rough for Brad, though. When you have an Achilles type injury like that, being able to jump off on that leg, which is what you need to do, is rough at a person. I'm sorry, of his age. He might be younger than me. I don't know. But
I think he's like 37. I'm surprised.
Okay, I'm going to be 40. So
doesn't always feel weird when you find out these professional athletes' age, and you're like, man, they look so much older.
It's gross. It's gross now, but like, you just can't expect too much out of that. And I don't remember when his injury happened, but I mean, it was early summer, so he might not be ready until then. So you're going to need two good options for early on in the season. Same with Miles. Miles is going to take a while to recover as well. Thank you, Zilf. I appreciate that. But yeah, you can't. You're not going to be able to rely on Brad. And now you're seeing these. It'd be wild if a new president comes in and they do all these specials, and then they just cut him at the end of the year or trade him. Oh man,
What was the deal with Gudiño? Like I forget exactly the details as to why he was, not why, but how he was brought in. He's not on loan. He's here. He was bought by Atlanta United. Yeah. And then I know this contract is up, I guess, at the end of the year. I forget exactly.
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
what are they seeing in practice? Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, Rocco hasn't been terrible, but you brought this guy in, and you figure there's been a couple points where Rocco's had a rough game for sure. Why not? It's the end of the year. Things aren't working for you. You got to try everything that you have.
The problem isn't goalkeeper. That's the thing. The problem it's not your goalkeeping. That's not why you're not winning games.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, that's definitely a point that, I mean, you can't blame it on the goalkeeper, really. I mean, it really comes down to the midfield, transitioning from whenever you win the possession or recover the ball and just lack of movement, like, I repeated or said earlier, and it just seems like they're static. They're just kind of waiting for either Araujo, whoever has the ball, Moreno, or whoever it is. They're just waiting for somebody to individually make something happen, literally out of nothing. And nobody's just picking up their head. Nobody's making any type of effort. And that's what it really seems.
But you did have back-to-back bad games from Rocco at one point. I think that's when fans were really calling for him, right? So there's the game where he didn't know the play started. Nobody yelled game on. And it goes right in. He probably would have stopped it anyways. And then there was the other one where I think it was Chicago. No, it wasn't Chicago. There was a game.
Galaxy, I believe. He had a pretty poor game.
The bad pass right to the Galaxy that ended up making the scoring chance. He had a couple bad games there, and I think that's when people thought they were going to make the change, and they just never did. And they were back-to-back games as well. It was the Orlando game where he allowed that bad goal, and then the next game against the Galaxy. I thought that Chicago game was the point where we were going to see him come in, and we still haven't. So at this point, I have to think that we unless there's an injury, we probably don't see him for the rest of the year. Or if we get eliminated from the playoffs.
He explained that he wanted. I mean, Pineda has explained that he likes consistency. So I forget when I talked about this, but there's been more than, I think, twice, if not more than twice, where he's talked about doing things he doesn't like to do, which makes you wonder. Well, I feel like that's such a rookie coach thing to say because he doesn't.
Yeah, so I know where you're going.
He talked, and I'm trying to think what the situation was, but there was a player that came in the second half, and then he got taken out before the end of the game. And I think it had something to do with either an injury or something like that. And so they needed to, I forget what, it wasn't whoever got taken out. It wasn't his fault. I want to say it was Wiley or maybe Aiden.
It could have, yeah, I remember.
But it wasn't either their fault, but I remember him talking about afterwards that he doesn't like doing that. But he, for whatever reason, his hand was forced. And then the other thing he doesn't like doing is, switching goal, and this is when Bobby Shuttleworth was in. He doesn't like switching goalkeepers or whatever, and restarting that level of chemistry and consistency and all that stuff. And then I don't know what happened to Bobby Shuttleworth, but eventually, I wonder if he was so pissed off at Atlanta United that he retired for whatever reason. Because I don't remember him being hurt. I don't remember him. He wasn't bad enough to where you had to start. You had to start Rocco over him, but that was another thing that happened, and it was maybe 3 or 4 weeks after that Bobby retired. That was another thing that Pineda was like, this is not something he basically said he doesn't do that. So that's 2 things he's done over the course of the season, and I'm wondering if he's just like, you know what, I'm not doing a third. I'm not changing out Rocco for Gudiño. Maybe it could also be that. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me either that Bocanegra has been like, you know what, we feel like Rocco could be the guy for the future. He could be kind of whatever. He could be the guy for the future. We could develop him. We can make him a real player here, or we could eventually sell him off to make money. And maybe Pineda's hand has been forced, and that wouldn't surprise me either, considering the history Bocanegra has had with his head coaches. So
I think Boca.
I don't. I'll put it this way.
A young coach.
I don't immediately blame Pineda for not starting Coutinho.
I think that Pineda is a Boca's dream, right? Because he's had some very strong-minded coaches over the past couple of years. I mean, basically since the beginning, right? I don't know if Frank was really strong.
Hard-headed.
Yeah, hard-headed. And now you got a guy that's never been a head coach and hovers over him and can tell him what to do, tell him what they're doing. Obviously, it looks like from some of the transfers that they're listening to Pineda, you think. But, I mean, that's always been the problem, right, is that Boca has done some signings here where the coaches haven't wanted the player or the coach didn't want him traded. I think Frank DeBoer said he didn't even know Gressel was leaving until, it was announced, that day. Tata didn't want Barco. They brought in Moreno without a head coach. There's just been a lot of weird decisions that, Boca, I think, has been on a power trip. And that's just, I think, why a lot of people want him out.
You call it a power trip, and I'm just like, is he just doing his job?
But I mean, technically, if you look at some of the deals, man, that other teams are pulling, I mean, and it's crazy because in comparison, you're overpaying for guys that, yeah, they have the quality, but I mean, the thing is that you're not seeing it from them, and I get it. That's probably not. It doesn't go technically directly to Boca, but I mean, you're in a league where you have the cap space, the salary, the salary cap or whatever, and you need to know how you're gonna invest the money, man. And that's where I feel like Atlanta United just Rossetto. I mean, he's making $500,000 per season. Like, tell me, the guy has 1 assist in 3 years.
Jürgen Damm.
I was literally, you took that out my mouth, bro.
What? Like, I don't know how you can defend that. Like, Jason Longshore and I were talking one day about it, and I'm like, he's like, well, he's shown times in his career that he could be worth this much. Not in MLS. You can't show me. I looked at his stats. There was nothing that was out there that was like, oh, okay, maybe at one point he was worth it. He's great in FIFA. In FIFA, I love playing with Jürgen Damm. He flies by everybody. But in real life, no, it did not work out. And they gave him a lifetime contract to live at the training. I mean, he didn't have a team. He was still allowed to practice with Atlanta or still allowed to practice in the facilities. He never left until just recently. He's made some really silly contracts. And if that contract was for 1 or 2 years, I get it. But what was it, a 4-year contract? It was like a 4 or 5 year contract. He's made silly mistakes. And you've obviously got some of the articles that have come out with Felipe and some of the bad decisions that have been made where maybe he made the choice as opposed to others. And I think that when you add it up, I just don't see someone coming in and thinking that he's still good for this job. And maybe it's just me hoping, but I think that he has done some good things, and most people ignore those good things. Like Gutman, genius what he did. Makes some trades, gets him in, loans him out to the Red Bulls because they want to give Bello his opportunity, sell him off, and he's just waiting. Like, stroke of genius there. Aruju, I know he hasn't really worked out, but that worked because of some of his prior connections that he's had. So he has made good decisions. But I think there's more bad than good.
I think most of his decisions have been good, though. If you look at it and again, I don't like Bocanegra either. I want someone that's going to be like, hey, tell me the type of player you want, that type of player you think fits the system, but let me go after him. We'll talk later. The fact that he did Barco without really, and I feel like Pitti was probably in the same kind of camp. I will say he has sucked when it comes to the high profile kind of the high profile names that you bring over in hopes of selling off. And from his perspective, Pitti wasn't all that big of a wasn't a bust because you ended up profiting off of him, which is kind of, I bet, a shock to everybody. But he didn't work out on the field. But look at the players you've got now. Almost everyone has benefited from, has been a plus to this team. Cisneros has been a plus because thank God we have Cisneros. Otherwise, what the hell would we do? Dom Dwyer has been a plus as a depth guy. You look at Caleb Wiley bringing him up. You look at Gutman, like you said. He brought over Brooks Lennon to kind of help with that, the loss of Gressel, which I'm not saying he is Gressel, but it's not a far drop. It's not a far enough drop to think, well, we still haven't replaced the Gressel thing, which I don't think we're going to do, nor should we aim to do that.
Wait, are you saying you don't think it's that far of a drop?
Gressel from Brooks?
Yeah.
I don't think it's far enough to make it. You knew he was leaving. Remember, this all kind of goes hand in hand with how much Gressel wanted, how much money he wanted. And I think everyone can agree he was not worth that much. That's why he's been with 2 teams in the last 4 years or whatever. He was not worth the money he was asking for. He was worth the money because in tandem with Almiron and Joseph and everyone else that was around him, Gressel was excellent. And he found himself in so many open spaces, and he's a hard worker, and he's able to go 90 miles an hour 90% of the game, and all that stuff. But when you put him in a different system, as seen with DC United, he struggles. When you put him in a different position, he struggles. Vancouver's about to find out the same thing, that he's going to. I don't know what they're planning on doing with him, but he's going to struggle there because they don't have the same mechanisms that Atlanta United had when he was here. What I'm not saying is that Brooks Lennon is better than Gressel. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that the drop off isn't so substantial that you missed in signing Brooks Lennon. That's what I mean.
I would argue with that is if Joseph didn't get hurt, I think that there's times in sports where there's 2 players that are so in sync with each other that it can make someone worth more than really what they are, because they have that sync with that all-star player. And I think that's what he had. Now, knowing that Joseph got hurt and basically ended his career, almost right after that, is okay.
Well, no, because that was before Joseph.
Oh, that was before.
Gressel got moved before Joseph got hurt.
Yeah, that's right.
James, so I mean, just real quick, your thoughts on Bocanegra, man?
Me?
You kind of been
Bro, I'm just a bystander. I don't really give a crap. I just watch what teams put on the field. I can't be asked to claim about Nagby and Gressel. That's just not my thing. That happened a long time ago. I'm good, man. I watch the guys that we have right now. But seriously, I agree with what you said about Boca, but damn, man, I can't even speak on the front office. I don't know enough. Basically, I don't know all the backstories, the lore of like 2019, all that crap. I just know the guys that we have now and what we can do. It's different, man. But can we talk about like right now? Like that's what I'm trying to do here, real quick.
I would just say that I think there's just I just think there's just a huge disconnect. It's been consistent throughout all the coaches. That there's been a strong disconnect in between what the coaches and the players want. And obviously Heinze was a very strong-willed person. And you look at all the U22 spots, basically. I mean, Sosa, Ibarra, those were guys that he picked out, right? Sosa, Ibarra, and there was another player that I think he specifically asked for. I forget who it is off the top of my head. Like
Sosa.
Yeah, I mean, but like he asked for these guys, and obviously he got them, and that's good. But as far as Pineda goes, I still worry about it because I think that you need a strong-minded coach to help to push what they want. And I don't know, Pineda does seem like he could be a pushover, and I don't know. Maybe that's we see his happy-go-lucky Ted Lasso type attitude. I don't know what he is behind the scenes, but I could see, you bring in a rookie head coach, you could tell him what to do because you have the experience at your job compared to your experience that you have with this. So maybe I wasn't as worried when Heinze was here about it, but with Pineda, I do worry about that relationship going forward.
Yeah, I agree with you, but it's so difficult when you have so much manager turnover in all those years. I mean, we still freaking Frank DeBoer guys here. And, we kind of need someone to stay here. When people are like, Pineda out, it's like, bro, we don't need any more turnover. We don't need these overlapping players. We need to freaking clean it out, get Pineda and a new guy, freaking work together, man, because there's so many overlap players, overlap how they play and all that crap.
But the only ones we're really worried about are the DP players.
Yeah.
That's really, I mean, That's why I say it's like I don't know that Bocanegra has done the worst job in the world. He has missed on. If you want to say it's more bad than good when it comes to the DP stuff, which is obviously a huge thing in MLS. Then yeah, he's not been great with the DP signings. But I mean, he's so good at finding good replacements. Well, I'm not gonna say so good, but he's good enough at finding good replacements at different positions, at positions of need, at positions where you can't spend DP type money. That at some point, a group of these DPs is going to hit again, and maybe it's just a matter of time before that happens. You look at LAFC, and they've had these guys stick around for a number of years, as opposed to Almiron leaving after 2 years. Who else left? Barco leaving after 2 years. Well, whatever. Pity leaving after 2 years. Joseph going through what he's going through now. You've had enough circumstantial situations come up to where it's like, I mean, maybe this just, I mean, Pity, you're going to miss on Pity. Well, you're going to miss on some. So let's say he missed on Pity. Barco, I want to say he missed, but it's not like it was a, it was a pass or fail thing. It was like he missed, but like it wasn't a bad miss.
It was mostly because the manager changes. I mean, what he went through.
Well, one manager didn't really want him, and the other manager he didn't really want to play for. So I mean, that could have gone into it too. So I don't like Boca either, and I don't necessarily defend him, but I also am just like, give this crew that's in it now another year. Give the guy, whoever they bring in next to kind of fill in for Darren Eales, give all of them, the three of them, well, the group of players they have, plus Pineda, plus Boca, plus whoever this new guy is, or woman, have them come in and kind of take a year to work together. You have players coming back from injury. You've got hopefully chemistry that's built throughout the course of this offseason and into the next season. And maybe it's a different Atlanta United come 2023. I mean,
I'm just
I'll put it this way. It's better than overhauling everything.
Yeah. Let me put this at you then, like with the 2-year players and that. Do you think we should continue to go for these Almadas? Because Almada, after next season, he's more than likely gone. Do you think we should keep pursuing those types of players?
I think there's the yes, but I think it's a different type of that type of player.
Sure.
I think it's the
low profile.
It's
guy.
It's the Yamil Assad type of player. It's the Joseph Martinez type of player. It's the I'm trying to think who else. The guys that come to I'll never forget this quote from Cisneros. The dude's face lit up obviously he just scored a hat trick, but he had just come. I forget where he came on loan from.
Chivas.
Yeah,
like their second team, I believe.
Yeah. But you come over from Chivas, really any team in South America. You come here to like these world-class facilities, to the world-class everything in the practice facility, to the stadium that you play in, to the fans that you play in front of, and you see this kid who clearly wants to stay here. Cisneros clearly wants to be here past this year. After, I'm not sure that the optics are all that great, but he was signing autographs. He's the only player I thought I saw signing autographs after the Red Bulls game. He clearly wants to be here, and I think that's the type of player that you want to go after. You want to go after a player that wants to come here and perform, and then if he gets good enough, if he performs, if he excels, if he lights it up, that he's going to find his way to Europe. But I think if you get more guys like Pity who announced that they don't want to come here or they didn't want to be here. The same with I think Araujo was the same. Wait, was it Araujo or Almada that said they didn't want that their plan wasn't to get to to get to MLS. They wanted to get to Europe. You sign more of those players, and we're going to run the same problems because it feels like it's a lack of heart more than anything because these players are clearly talented.
Oh yeah.
So hitting into the last subject, we got Columbus this week.
Columbus.
Tommy,
Ohio, man. It's gonna get weird.
A rainy, good old Columbus game.
Every game. I don't think I've been to an Atlanta United game in Columbus that hasn't poured. Every time. It makes the drinking fun because there's a lot of delays. That's
you're
fun.
stuck 5 hours in the stadium.
Yeah.
We are
Ace is
literally
brand
they
new.
put the supporters in the corner where there's a roof, so I will be covered. So I'm good on that end.
There you go.
Realistically, I mean, prediction, just real quick. Personally, I say
Let's go, Ariel.
2-0. I mean, we lose. I mean,
No
given
goals?
the fact that we're chasing the game against the Red Bulls. Physically, I don't think the team is ready. For these kind of games where you're playing playoff teams, basically Columbus, New York. They're teams that they're good. Azela Rayan, Cucho Hernandez. I mean, I think that they're gonna have a big game if we're not able to be in sync. I really expect a big game out of Franco Parada. I really, if anything, they need to step up their game. I'm not saying that they've been bad, but I mean, you're playing different players, when it comes to going up against Columbus.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to go first because I got to run here.
Cool.
It's a must win. Like you said, the rest of the schedule is is maddening. You're playing DC, who's not very good, but they are getting better. Then you've got Philly, Portland, Toronto, Orlando, Philly again, New England, and New York FC. If you're going to make the playoffs, you got to win the next. If you're going to make it, you got to win the next 2 games. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's on the road, this one. So you have, I think you've won 1 road playoff game, or I'm sorry, 1 road game all season. You got to win it. Absolutely. So I think that if they lose, this is the end of Atlanta United as far as making the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's so funny to say that when they have 9 games left and they're only 4 points out of a playoff spot.
I mean, we've said,
but it's
these two have said this for literally 3 weeks.
The schedule.
If we lose, we're gone.
Yeah, between the schedule and the way they're playing, like it feels like the thing about this match that I think everyone was looking forward to is if they had won it, the momentum continues. Yeah. And I think that's what everyone was kind of hoping on, is that, okay, if we can kind of visibly get up the standings and visibly see that, okay, clearly something has clicked here in the last couple of games, that if they had won against Red Bulls last 3 games, but that loss was just like kind of 1 step forward, 2 steps back type of thing. And that's what it feels like. Even with the draw against Cincinnati, it still felt like you were still making progress. So that's the bummer. I think that Columbus, it's really just the rest of the season, it's going to come down to who scores first, because I think the Atlanta United, and if I'm Atlanta United, I'm just like, we're in 13th place right now. We literally have nothing to lose. Just go for it. Go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
I thought that's what they were going to do yesterday.
I to their credit, they opened really well. It's just once it got scored on, it was done.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, they know going into these games. This is why I say it just depends on who scores first, because they know going into these games that if they get, they're going in with the same mentality that we are to some extent, and so they know that if they get scored on, it's like, well, shit. We can't score now anyway. So the best we're looking for, even if we're down 1-0, is probably going to be a draw, and we've been leaking 2 goals a game for like forever. So we got to score 3 now to win. Like, all that stuff starts going into your mind, and you start to think, okay, well, it's not like you quit, but at the same time, you don't mentally quit, but physically there's the extra effort, because it doesn't really mean anything anymore. It permeates your mind. It permeates the kind of the soul of the team, and then that just kind of takes over. And so if I'll say it, every game from now on, Atlanta United's got to score first to have a chance to even have a chance in the game. And that's a weird thing to say when you score first, because normally when you score first, you win. Well, I'm not gonna say normally, but generally you score first, you put yourself in a really good position to win. But Atlanta United scores first, and it's still like, okay, we completed the first step of 3 steps to maybe win a game. And the first one is to score first. The second one is to score a second goal. And then the third one is to score a third goal, because you're going to need it, because you're going to inevitably give up 2.
Yep.
Yeah. So, guys, thank you to the ones that have been commenting on here. Eric, thank you for being on here with us today, man. Like I said before, go, his social media account is Eric G. Quintana. Follow him on Twitter. Mounts of the Mounts of the South podcast as well. Go follow them. Same with Tommy. Let's go Ducks 96. You'll find him on Twitter. Find him in the Dirty Soccer South Twitter spaces afterwards. James as well. Kyle don't miss 26. Go give the man a follow.
Yes.
Myself.
What's
Resurge
Kyle
Spike
Korver doing
ATL.
these days?
He
What
is
happened?
an assistant coach for the Atlanta Hawks.
There you go.
Yeah.
Full
Yeah.
circle. I love
Yeah.
it. Oh, by the way, I didn't make a prediction. 3-0 Atlanta. Good game. Thanks, guys.
Whoa.
If Andrew
Damn.
Gutman's center back,
In what world?
if we drop Moreno or Joseph for Amar Sadic and Gutman plays center back, we play 5-back. 3-0 Atlanta. Good night.
Wow.
Oh, you know what? I want to throw in the Mosquera signing. He looks like he's been pretty good. He looks like
never mentioned it.
that's another one I'm gonna be like, yeah, you got to give credit to Boca Negra. Sorry,
played well.
that's the last
You
thing.
can't give him credit for anything yet.
Okay, Tom.
He hasn't
Not
done
yet,
anything.
but
He
he
hasn't
like.
done anything.
Would you rather have him or not have him right now?
Would you rather have Jake Moraney, Tom?
You all cried when Jake Mulroney got traded. Don't give me the Jake Mulroney
I didn't cry.
stuff.
I-
Not you.
I
These
liked
two
it.
clowns.
I know.
No, there's no Jake Mulroney. No.
I'm just saying. He's
I mean,
helpful.
it's nice that he's on a very long contract. I think he's a 4 or 5 year contract. Long as you can, and this is what we don't know yet. And I was talking to Joe Patrick about this. Can you take a U22, and take him out of that spot to a normal roster spot at some point? Because if not, that's taking up a U22 spot for a while, and that's concerning. I think because he doesn't have a enormous salary, and that was our only spot that we could really throw him into to not get hurt by the cap. So if we could get him out of that spot at some point, perfectly fine. I'm fine with the signing. I think he's going to improve. But if he's locked into that spot, it's another valuable spot where I'm a little nervous about the guy that's never scored a goal. And that's just kind of our thing, is we like to bring in guys that maybe haven't scored a lot of goals and hope that they turn it on. I don't know if that's him yet. It's obviously way too early. We won't know until after preseason next year, likely, how he's really doing. But I like what I've seen. I like his speed. They say he attacks players. I've seen a little bit of it. He loses the ball easily, but I am hoping that a preseason with the team will change all of that, and he'll get better. He's young, and that's obviously an upside, but it is a long contract, so that does worry me.
I think
We still got Eric Lopez sitting out there. We got to do something eventually with him.
I think they saw a lot of Tito in him, and I think I think he's a better version of Tito. So hopefully it pans out the same sort of way. I don't know if he's going to score as many goals. I knew that stat, but I was like, I don't. Anyways, doesn't matter.
He's got upside.
Yeah.
Everybody's got upside.
Not
All right,
Jake Moraney.
guys. Well, let me go ahead and end this thing.